I made a living.
You bet. What did you do when you got out in 45?
Well, I had a room in my mother's apartment, and in order to get into the room, I had to have all these women get out of it who were doing home sewing and doing special pillows, garters, and stuff for my mother, who was selling to the bridal departments in Manhattan. And so they said, well, if you want your room back, get us some office space. So I got us some space in 39th Street, where the engineers were giving up a place. And at that time, Lord and Taylor wanted me to come back, and they offered me about $10 more than I'd been making when I was drafted. And my folks offered me $100 a week, which was big money. And so I didn't go back to the department store. And I helped develop this business and was stuck in it for 37 and a half years.
It's quite a record.
And now it's the Hortense Hewitt Company. It's a national company. It was headquartered in Idaho for a while. Now it's in Minnesota. Big catalog and so on. Mm-hmm. And it's changed hands a number of times. All my competitors are now part of that thing. Mm-hmm. So the name is in perpetuity.
That's great. That's great. Bob, when did you meet your wife? And how did you meet her?
Oh, I thought you'd ask that. I walked into my office manager said, Bob, I want you to come in and meet a couple of our customers. So I walked into the showroom, and here was this beautiful, tall brunette and this short redhead in the act of trying on a pair of garters and bending over, looking very, very full-bodied. And I sort of gulped, and they gulped. And make a long story short, it turned out that the tall brunette was married, and this was her sister coming along for a ride. So I said to the sister, if you're ever in town, give me a call and maybe we'll have a drink. About a month later, she called me, and that turned out to be my eventual wife.
That's great. We
went around for 10 years or so. I lived in Manhattan. She lived in Paterson, New Jersey. And we fraternized. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, I was having a beautiful time entertaining all the out-of-town buyers who came in to buy the stuff we had. Mm-hmm. And most of them were married, and they enjoyed having a good time. And I was very happy with the arrangement. So I was resisting Louise's rightful insistence that we get married. But finally, at age 39, I agreed, I surrendered. And so we were married. She was about to be 43, but we got married a weekend in advance so she wouldn't be a year older.
That's very gracious of you. And you moved to Hillsdale soon thereafter? In 70?
Well, what happened was we had an apartment in New York, and I had bought a house in Emerson on the GI Bill for Louise to live in. And about a year and a half after I bought it, we agreed to get married. And her brother, who since died, was living in the house. And we didn't want him around. So she shopped for a house in Hillsdale. And we ended up with the house I live in now. Okay. And eventually we sold the house in Emerson.
Mm-hmm. And do you recall when you joined the American Legion here in Hillsdale?
Oh, about 8 years ago, that character DeRosa came around and rang the bell and importuned me to join.
What would you say is the most, if you could sum up your military experience, what would you say was the most significant thing you took away from your service during the war?
Extreme self-confidence. I was running a large enterprise at very young years. I was used to dealing with people at all levels. I was much more communicative than I am right now, and it broadened my horizons, and the world was a pleasure thereafter.
What kind of advice would you give young people today about the military and service to their country?
I think it's a very broadening, I've used the word before, broadening, but it's an enlightening experience to get away from your home bailiwick, see people of other faiths, of other colors, and so on. And it was, like I remember when I was first assigned down to Columbia, South Carolina, and I was in town, and the MPs grabbed me one day and said, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "That avenue over there." They said, "That's a house of ill repute over there." And they brought me in and checked me over to make sure I hadn't been doing anything wrong.
Is there anything else that you'd want to add about what we're talking about today? Any other stories, interesting people you met?
Well, I got very involved with the borough, and became head of our town committee, publicity committee. And all these years I've been putting together the welcoming information packet and making it ready for newcomers. We sent out letters saying it's available. And similarly, I've been fortunate enough to make major contributions to all the different organizations. I'm an honorary member of the fire department and ambulance corps and so on. And I go to the meetings when I can. Hillsdale has been a very, very enjoyable experience. My first real small town.
Well, Bob, I'd like to thank you for your service to the country and also for the service that you've provided to Hillsdale over the years. You've been a significant member of our community, and we thank you for the time.
I'm only emulating what you're doing right now for the community.